I'm Aaron, and today I'm going to do something completely different. We're going to recreate some iconic tones found on Abbey Road by the Beatles. Obviously, recreating the Beatles tone is going to be damn near impossible when dealing with all those amazing studio and vintage pieces of gear. However, I've spent a hell of a lot of time on this and I got as close as I possibly can. Abbey Road. It was the 11th and final studio album by the Beatles. It was recorded and released in 1969, well before I was born, yet it made its mark on my life. As I'm sure it made a mark on many of your lives. This is evident by the fact that the album has now sold well over 31 million copies. Just astounding. So everyone knows the Beatles for the classic use of the Vox amplifier. We all know about the numerous AC30s, AC15 and the three AC100s. They were prototypes from 1964 sent out by Vox themselves. I thought recreating this tone would be easy work, but when I started getting the video together, it caught me by surprise at just how difficult this actually was. John was using a Fender twin reverb. Here are some shots of John Lennon and the Beatles using the Fender twins at the same time period. Now I do own an AC30, I also own a couple of Bad Cats. I started off by tracking them, trying to get close. I just couldn't get close enough. I did get close, but not close enough that I felt comfortable in sharing. So quite simply, I needed to move forward. I didn't want to use a Kemper or a modeler, so I decided to go down the route of amp sims. I found a plugin by ML Soundlab called Amp Gemini. I'll tell you what, the accuracy with an amp sim replicating a 50-year-old amp these days, undeniable. So loaded with Amp Gemini, we're now back on track. Let me refresh your ears and you can hear the track with some guitars out of the mix. So the reason you're probably here, you want to know the whole chain and how you can get the tone. John was using his Epiphone Casino, however I don't have one of those. I opted for my Ibanez AS73 in olive metallic. This is also a hollow body similar to John's and bears the same tonal characteristics. I plug that straight into my interface to track the direct signal. From there, I use the Amp Gemini plugin. This is the direct recreation of the Fender Twin Reverb. Here's a shot of the settings I used. Feel free to pause the video and jot them down. It sounds incredible and it's extremely fun to play around with. I'm sure you will have a blast. For bass tones, I used a Fender P. Not appropriate, but it's the best I had. I tracked that through a dark glass preamp and an impulse response. The drums are programmed. I took a hell of a long time trying to replicate that vintage drum sound. That was almost as rough as the guitars. When the song was complete, there was still something missing. It was the vocals. I can't sing like John, so I had some fun to play around with. I put down some piano to give it those cool vibes. So that's how I went about chasing the iconic John Lennon tones found on Abbey Road by the Beatles.